I see I've got a chat there. Hi, Danny. Dimitri, glad to see you. And Dimitri, I see that you're there on the also on the roster. Can you hear me? I've got my sounds up as much. And I wanted to check and see, Dimitri, can you hear me? And then I saw John. Dimitri's dropped off for a moment. John, you're still there. And we're recording. We're going on. And we'll get started here in about 8 minutes or so. Again, I'll let everybody know this as they come through, because what we'll do basically, and I'll see if I've got my participants managed. 2 of us here. I see Dylan. Glad to see you here. Dylan, can you hear me? I want to find out if you can hear me, Dylan. Can you hear me? I wanted to see if, Dylan, do you have your sound on?
Yeah, I just figured it out. I'm good.
Okay, great. Okay, and I'll see who all else is here. I should get my list of participants. And let me check to see who all I have here. And it's like I've got 3 of us here. Okay, good. John, can you hear me? If you don't have a speaker, if you don't have a mic, then you obviously won't be able to. So you can send me an email if you have a question or something. We'll get started here in just a moment. And Dylan, if you would, once we get started, and I'll let everybody know this as we go. It's best if everybody mutes their mic, and then if you have a question, shoot me a text message, or you can raise your hand and we'll go from there. So we'll get started here in a few minutes, about 5 in fact, and make sure I'm recording here. Yep, I'm recording, and we should be in good shape. So we'll get that rolling here in a few minutes. Glad to have the 2 of you aboard. And as I said, the session is live streamed. It'll be recorded, and then I'll post the recording. But it's not going to be absolutely necessary that you have to attend these sessions. These sessions, there are 2 sessions, class sessions at the end of the course, and I'll talk about this some more, that are plenary sessions where it's kind of an all hands on deck, and I want everybody there. We'll talk about that a little bit, but we got about 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm sure we'll have people come through. And we've got, I think, 13 or 14 of us enrolled in the course, so I'm not all that I'm not all that concerned that we're going to have people here every week for the live stream, because they know it's recorded and it's your option to be here or not, and it will be up to you. So glad to have the 2 of you here, and we'll be ready to go from there. So it appears right now that everybody, I assume, can hear me, and as people join. There's Dylan, there's John. We'll have some others who will be joining us here. This is a new technology that we have that we've created. Let me show a small screen, I guess, of me, or supposedly. And I'll get back to this for a moment. And there we go. There's the thumbnail. And there I am. And well, I'll let everybody know this, but I'll probably be repeating it. The camera I have is pretty sensitive, so it tends to follow. It pans and zooms, as you can see. It's quite sensitive. So we'll do the large active speaker video. Do that if it's going to come up. Obviously, it's not. See if we can get the small one going again. It's just going to give me this one tonight, and maybe it will let me go large from here. And it's not. That's okay. Well, we're a couple of minutes early, and I'm going to go ahead and get it started. Again, I'm Dr. Harmon. I'm the instructor in the course. And each Tuesday at 6 o'clock, I'm going to live stream what I call a class session. And basically, I'll record this, and then I'll do an additional, what I call a supplemental lab session and a supplemental lecture session that will give you the full 4 hours of instructional time. Now, obviously, you'll be doing some things outside of that, working on the course. I wanted to take tonight then and go ahead and just kind of get everybody familiar a little bit with Canvas. And you should be seeing Canvas right now. And I'm going to go to the I'm going to go to a student view, so you're not confused, because there are going to be some things in there that you'll see that I have that that you would go, where'd that come from? It's going to look different. So, and that's because I can hide things and so forth as the instructor. I'm going to adjust this up just a hair, a little bit more, and we'll be ready to go. This is not an exact science. I don't have my production crew with me. That's obvious. So to get much of me, if any at all, I have to do that. And I'm also glad to see Zach here and joining us. Welcome. And what we're looking at right now is the module view here in Canvas. And just quickly, in terms of navigating, just open up, click on the down menu. It will take you through all of the submodules or the contents for a given module. Okay. Now this is the getting started, and then I have one for the course schedule. I wanted to tell you about this. I've got a document in here that tells you there are 2 or 3 different ways you can look at the course schedule, especially in terms of seeing what you've got due. Okay. So there's you can look in here in the modules. You'll see what's due. You can also look in that course schedule PDF that I have. There also are a couple of other places, and I'll show you. One of them is the syllabus, which is kind of a misnomer. And what you'll see, it pops open and it shows you the assignments. Okay, when they're due and what they are. And then all you have to do is click on the assignment to see the points. Now, I'm going to go back to the modules view for a moment. Okay. And I'm going to click on week 0, which is today. And you'll see that on the 10th, you have a lab file to upload. that is that lab file is a spreadsheet tutorial, and it's from the green textbook. We have 3 textbooks in here, and the first textbook is the Perelson textbook. It's red and white, smaller. It's the smallest of the 3 books, and it's managing and using information systems. Okay, and I'll hold that up. That's the key concept, the text for most of the content. Concepts, the theoretical piece of this. And then here is the lab book. This is the Miller book. It's the green one, the great big green one. That will have the cases. And then we have the book on big data and analytics. And of course, those are listed there. And you should have those textbooks by now. If not, you need to get them over from the bookstore or from Amazon or whomever at this point in time. Now, I'm gonna hide the thumbnail video for just a minute because I want to make sure we can see. Now, for example, here's week 0, okay? And I have a series of things here, including this. We're gonna talk about the course intro and logistics, which we're doing tonight. And I have a place where you'll upload a file that's due, and it's due on the 10th. It's one of the lab files. And then I have some other resources that I would really encourage you to take a look at, and I think it's quite good for you to do that. One of the things I'd really like everybody to do, and I'm going to close this off for just a second, is to come over here into the discussion board, okay? And if you would please, there are, and I see a couple of people have posted, so I've got probably at least one person to respond to. I'll click that open. Okay, and I got some information here, yeah. And I've got now, so I'll need to reply to him, and I will get to that as people reply. And thank you for sharing, Abdul, about yourself. Now, again, back to the module view, and I mentioned the syllabus, which helps you keep track of things that are due. Okay. Then there's always the calendar for the course. All right. There's also a link up here for assignments, and they're shown by date. Okay. Now, if you want to, you can navigate and you can show them by type, but it's best if you show them by date, and that way you can see what's due each date. Okay. And you can see this. The assignments in this course really are made up of file uploads from the workshop portion of the course. And the workshops where I'm going to take you through a finished product, deconstruct it or reverse engineer it, and show you how it exemplifies some concepts from information technology, and how we take data and convert it into information. Then you're going to see also there are some exams, quizzes, and then you have a case follow-up, and I have some instructions over in the modules area and in the course syllabus that will tell you about what I'm after in terms of a case follow-up. And then as we move on down the course, you'll see we'll have we'll have a group software project, and I'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks or so. And then a business movies exercise. Students always seem to really enjoy this, and we'll talk about that. And then these last 2 weeks, weeks 6 and 7, and this is an 8-week course, but I started numbering at 0, which is the proper way to do. So the last 2 weeks of the course are what we call plenary sessions, and I'd like to have as many people there as possible. I'm glad to see all of you here, and I'm going to go back to this view. I see Dimitri is here. We've got Zach, Marcus, anybody else? David is here. Glad to see all of you here. Thank you so much. And again, I'll be recording this. So this gives you a look of what's due. And I'm just kind of navigating us around, kind of looking at some of the logistics. And as you can see, here's some to-dos for you. You'll see at the bottom here, I'm in student view. So, there are going to be some times when I'm not in student view, when I'm in instructor view, and you'll see some stuff that I have hidden, and that, so it may give you a different look. So always keep that in mind if it just doesn't look like what you've got. Then also the grade books and have the people. Obviously, here's your calendar, and then here's an inbox. You can do email, and probably the quickest and easiest way to reach me is through email. I check my email pretty regularly. Now, one of the things I like to do in the course is to start with cover some of the logistics stuff that's due for the week, then talk a little bit about some of the theory that we're looking at that week, and then maybe look at some examples out in the world. So sometimes we'll do a little bit of some surfing. I'll have some resources to take a look at, or I'll take you out to see something out on the web that looks like it's of interest, some current kinds of things. Then we'll move into the workshop part of the course. And I want to take a few minutes and explain what I mean by that. The workshop portion, okay, is where I'm going to take Excel, and then later in the course, Microsoft Access, and we're going to learn about spreadsheets, and we're going to learn about databases. And throughout that, one common theme will be how these two tools are gradually being merged together to build dashboards. And that's one of the reasons why the piece in terms of business intelligence is so very important. And so each week I'm going to try to go from the theoretical down to the practical. If you wanted to, and hopefully you'll have your books when you're here, but if you take a look over on over in the small book, that's the Perelson book. It's that kind of maroon book. You're going to see, and I believe it's figure 1-2, the business diamond. Okay, and I'm going to pop over. You can probably hear me going through the pages, looking for the business diamond. I'm going to find that. And let me stop first of all and take a look at figure 1-6. It's over on page 12. Okay. That shows you, okay, a process view, a value chain view of the organization. And that is a key approach with information technology, is that idea of a value chain. And how do we enhance it? How do we sustain it? And how do we build it? The text also talks about the information hierarchy, which I will do a little bit as well. And so that over in the intro, they give you some pretty good information. There on page 23 in the text, and this is a very important thing, is really a summary. The information systems triangle is really a summary of the course, where we talk about business strategy, organizational strategy, and information strategy. And we'll talk about that because those three things need to be in sync. And it's important that you see that. Now, one of the things that sometimes is a frustration for students, and I understand this completely, is that in this course, for some of you, I won't go nearly deep enough because you're a programmer or you have a lot of experience working with spreadsheets or databases. You have a lot of experience working in IT. And I apologize to you because you come to me with all kinds of sets and different skill levels. Then I'll have those folks who opening a file is an adventure. Working in Excel is a challenge, and much less even a database. And so I try to walk a pretty fine line where I talk about these tools, and this is what goes on in the workshops. Okay, and so each week we'll be going through a workshop, and we'll be looking at some aspect, okay, of these two tools. Now, spreadsheets are, in essence, a way for us to the most common use of them is to build a pro forma, a management tool, a way for me to say, how are things looking if I follow out a certain path, or where are we at? okay? Spreadsheets are designed to do analysis of data. Databases are different critters. They're designed to collect, okay, and then retrieve data. And we'll talk about the concept of a data warehouse and how that's put together. And I do this for two reasons. First of all, and most importantly, is that from those two tools, we'll see often the way that business models can get created. And for example, databases are very common use of a business model. For example, Amazon uses what we call a recommendation engine, okay? Now, the other is so that you can have an intelligent conversation with the IT people in your company, or if you're asked to do some work, you'll be comfortable doing it. So we're going to do in the labs, we'll be taking some finished products, okay, and then we'll be working through that finished product, and we'll be talking about how it's put together. So that's going to be a piece. And when we finish a lab, I'm just going to simply say, here's the file to upload for the lab credit, okay? The other stuff, the case follow-ups, the quizzes, those things, those are to be done. But the lab portion really is that indeed, a lab. Now I wanted to just pop this open for a moment, this module, okay? And it's got a welcome, and we've got some course resources. You can see those. In fact, and again, if you haven't gone over into the discussion board to introduce yourself, please do so, and I'll be getting to everybody and letting them know. I also like to show you some of the resources in the course. These are some OBU and some professional resources. This is a resource from the OBU library, the online, and you can click over there and go, and then there everything you could possibly want in or need in a library, it's there and accessible online for all of the students. Here is the online writing lab over at Purdue University, OWL. And here is something I think is very important, and this is a link over to Harvard Business School online and the MIT Sloan Management. And I think it's a good idea for you as a business professional, because you are getting an MBA, to say, well, what do the best minds say about what are the best practices? What's going on out in the business world that I need to be mindful of? And I would encourage you to make it a habit to go take a look at HBR online. You can see some of their articles. MIT Sloan Management is the same story. I also have a link here to the Christian Business Faculty Association. These are faculty, these are scholars who are trying to talk about how do we take the laws and the ways that the market works and take that and understand it in terms of our status as believers, as members of a community of faith. And there's some really good articles over there. I would encourage you to take a look at them. They are journal, they're peer-reviewed articles. And as being a graduate student, I strongly encourage you to go and look at professional journals. One of the things that will set you apart from an undergraduate in business, or set you apart from a person who doesn't have the level of training that you're going to have, is the fact that you understand how to link theory to practice. That's an important piece, and we'll talk about that a lot. Here's a biographical sketch. You can learn about me. Here's the course syllabus, and then an attachment that talks about some policies, and then here's that schedule I talked about. Here's our code of ethics. Here's a quick course intro, and I want to open it up for just a moment, and it's a PowerPoint. What you're going to find sometimes is it's probably better for you to download these resources than it is to try to look at them in a viewer like this. And let me say this also, and this is the age, I know, of BYOD, that is bring your own device. Some of you are on a tablet, some of you are maybe sitting like I am with a computer with a pretty good size screen. Some of you may be on a phone. I always want to make sure that you remember set the viewing scale and set the video, the audio output to a level that meets your needs. And always remember that sometimes it's going to be more fruitful for you to go ahead and download some of these files, particularly like a PowerPoint. It just depends on bandwidth and what's going on. But I have just a short little this PowerPoint. I want to just kind of walk you through it. You can look through it yourself. But one of the things that is important to understand the course and to understand the textbooks and all that we're doing is to understand what IT is and what it's not. And I'm going to talk about that, and it kind of goes on. You can look at it in terms of a continuum, and let me explain what I mean. Okay, when we talk about computer science, we're talking about the science of and the art and science of programming. Okay, developing computer programs. All right, and computer languages. That's computer science. And the nature of data. What are data like? What's the difference whether I store data one way versus another? Data structure. And when we start to put our toes in the water with working with databases, you're going to see that that has some fairly significant consequences for us because it costs money to get, to store, and to move data. And we'll talk about that. Information technology, it's also not about hardware, okay? That's computer engineering. The physics of machines, the physics of motherboards, the physics of chips, etc. How do we push stuff? What's a trunk line? What's a T1 line? How do we physically, what's known as the internet is really the physical apparatus that moves stuff around. The web are those pages, those links that let us go to the different places we want to land. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that IT is neither one of those two. Information technology is decision-centric, whereas computer science is software-centric, and whereas computer engineering is device-centric or hardware-centric, IT is decision-centric. You say, what do you mean? What I mean is that information technology, when it works well, uses computer science and computer engineering and a human being, a decision maker, okay? And we gather data and convert it to information. And I have a point here, data versus information versus knowledge. And I'll talk about that for just a minute because the text talks about that hierarchy of knowledge. Data is nothing but bits and bytes. Data becomes information when I can use it for making a decision. So if I say, okay, I have a list of everything I sold in July, that's wonderful. It's really not information until I summarize it, and then I compare it to say, well, how did I do last quarter? How did I do a year ago? What does it look like? How will things look? What are my projections for next year? And even breaking that down to, did we sell what we thought we would? Did we meet our goals, etc.? So you can see IT is decision-centric, and those decisions feed into our business intelligence, okay? And many of you probably work with dashboards. This notion of a dashboard, the notion of business intelligence, is a way that we do the external and internal scanning that feeds into company strategy. And everything we do in IT is about making decisions that ultimately help us fulfill the company's strategy and the company's mission. And so as you go through the text, you're going to see that the author is going to use and talk about, and the author, I mean Perelson, okay, the small textbook, is going to talk about IT, but with a strategic overlay. And the one he's going to use is typically going to be Porter. And if you haven't heard about Porter, you will. Well, the strategy is driven by the nature and the structure of the industry. the comparative power, relative bargaining power of the company with its suppliers, with its customers, and that's an overlay that you're going to see. Okay, now out in practice, there's also another approach, and that is that IT is really driven by talent, by equipment, by people. And so when we talk about IT and using technology, okay, it's kind of a nature versus nurture thing, that the company's strategy and then the IT that feeds into that strategy is driven by the industry structure versus the other approach that says, no, our strategy is driven by the fact that we have the best people in the business, we have the best marketing plan, we have a great relationship with our customers, etc. And so there's those two. So there's always that overlay, if you will. Now, I want to encourage you to take a look over on page 35. And I'm not going to always be this didactic with the textbook, but I do want to give you those pieces out of it that I think are real nuggets. And one is our business processes and tasks and structures. That's the business diamond over on page 35. Those things are, you're really talking about a series of business processes, tasks and structures, management and measurement systems, values and beliefs. That is the business diamond, and how technology feeds into each one of those. And that's important, okay? So we talked about data versus information, and then I've got knowledge. What's knowledge? Knowledge is information that is replicable, okay, and is useful in a variety of settings. Not all settings, but in a variety of settings. It's something I can reproduce, and I can use it multiple times, okay? That's knowledge, okay? And that's different from information. And a good example of that would be, we know, okay, for example, that home building, the home construction is sensitive to the cost of money, because people, 99% of us take out a mortgage when we buy a house. And so the price of that house, which most people don't really look at the houses where, you know, there's what they're selling for 250, 280. What most people do is they look at the payments. Okay, can I afford the payments? In fact, if you going through the loan process, really the lender is concerned about, can you make the payments? So, and they know that the payments, okay, are driven a lot by the interest rate. Okay, so we have a piece of knowledge. We know that when interest rates go up, new home construction tends to go down, and it makes sense. So we have an understanding of that. We have some knowledge about this thing called inflation, where, you know, when prices go up, people want more wages. They demand higher salaries because it costs more to live. Okay. There's something I've got noticed here also, the transformative nature of technology and new business models. And you say, what do you mean there? Let me give you a great example. One of them is Amazon. Amazon is a transformative company. Amazon at its heart is really nothing more than a recommendation engine. It's a business, okay? Business, it's a database, but in the form of a recommendation model backed up by tremendous analytics. So as people come in and they buy and they search and they look, that all feeds over into their analytics section. Then the other really super thing they do is they have the capacity to build a distribution network, a physical distribution network, to get the stuff to you. It's no good to sell you the stuff and then you don't get it, okay? So they have become a new way to shop, a new, just as at the turn of the 20th century, the department store was a revolution to people. Amazon is transforming, and Amazon is so good at handling their database and their analytics, they're so good is they have an Amazon Web Service, the AWS, which is the most valuable part of their company, and they sell their algorithms and their web services to others, including the United States government. So that's a new business model, and something people didn't think about. Intermediaries, okay? For example, in real estate, you could, sure, most people are going to use a real estate agent, but they're going to do a search on Trulia, Zillow, somewhere looking for the house they want to buy. So it's not the old thing of where you called the real estate agent and they went through the MLS and if they're a high class outfit, they might give you some photocopies of the house and then you drive all over town all day long. You go on the web, you take a look, there are pictures, etc. That's that transformative nature of technology. One of the others is the way that talent has gotten spread. With the web and the ability to communicate over the web, etc. As Krugman said in his book, the world is flat. We can get talent from all over the world. Companies can have people working in 6, 7, 8, 9 different time zones. Some of you probably do. And this is a different type of business model, the virtual organization that people just didn't anticipate. So that's one of those. Another good example is Facebook, which is again a database, but it's a database that's populated by the customer, okay? And they use that to build analytics to feed you more information. They're close to a recommendation, but not quite. But at its heart, Facebook is really nothing more than a database. These are, and 10, 20 years ago, people would, what is a Facebook? Who would know? So we are seeing some new business models that occur. One of them is that understanding the nature of things, for example, of intellectual property, like entertainment vehicles, a movie, a song, a book, etc. Those things are infinitely reproducible and can be distributed in any number of ways. And all I got to say is the words Hulu, I rest my case. You can see just about any TV you want to. And think about this, how it's changed so many people. I'm one of them. We binge watch things. We'll watch everything in a series and try to get caught up. And that a Hulu, or for example, one of my favorite companies, Turner Classic Movies, that takes, I'll give you an example. When Turner Classic Movies shows the movie Gone with the Wind, more people watched that movie, okay, in 2017 than ever saw it in the theaters when it had its run. That's because we're distributing it over this thing called cable systems, or people will go over there and see it on, I don't know if they offer that movie on demand, but certainly through the cable systems. So we have some new business models that are changed. And I talked about that transformative nature. And for example, augmented reality is another one of those where we have things like, I look at a map and I look to see where are the places here locally that I can get Chinese food. And then I'll look at recommendations and the old ways that we tried to find a restaurant or a place to get coffee or whatever, that's all pretty much gone because we've got all these maps and recommendation engines like Yelp and things of those. And one of the other things I will talk about here is 4 IT tools have changed business forever. I talk about that, IT versus computer science, and then IT versus hardware, computer engineering, which is hardware centric. And again, all forms of technology, primarily digital, they're used to store, create, exchange, and use information for making decisions. One of the key facets of information technology is that I never collect information I don't intend to use. I just simply don't. It's nonsense to do otherwise. Now, we've talked about that hierarchy, and I talked about data versus information and information versus knowledge. And then there's one I like to add, and it's what I call business wisdom. So what are you talking about? I think business wisdom is the accumulated knowledge and the accumulated heuristics rule of thumb that employees, human beings working in a place, gain over time. We know that when a company lays off employees today, that about $25,000 worth of information walks out the door on average. To give you a good example of this, when I was doing my graduate studies, a long time ago, if you'd sat down and said, okay, what's the valuation of the Fortune 100? About 80% of their value would be stuff. 20% would be goodwill. They have a good name. Maybe they've got some highly trained people, but 20% of what was known as intangible assets. Okay, today that's flipped. 80% of the firms in the Fortune 100 or 500, their wealth, their value is based solely on information. If you don't believe me, okay, take a look at these companies that are coming up. Look at a Facebook and its value. Look at Twitter, its value. Uber, its value. These firms, their value is in their ability, the algorithms they have, their ability to connect with customers in multiple ways and manage relationships, etc. So we've seen that flip, okay? And every product has knowledge poured into it. This weekend, if you go out and eat, and you go to, let's say you go to Sonic, or you go to a really nice restaurant, think about the information content loaded in that food when you start to consume it. That stuff had to be grown, it had to be harvested, it had to be transported, it had to be maybe converted and brought to your plate, and people had to know how to do that and get it there on time, so that when you ordered your special nachos, or you ordered your Heather's mac and cheese down at the Interurban in Norman, I'll give a shout out to them, Norman, Oklahoma. There's an information content to that. Somebody had to know how to put that plate together. A person called a chef. You had to have somebody who had a supply chain that got that product to you. And so part of this course is I really want to get you to think about that and see that and understand information technology is decision centric. It's to help us make this better decisions so that we support the company strategy and the company nature. And we've talked about some of those new business models. And here, of course, I talked about Turner Classic Movies, excuse me. Turner is actually what we would call a storage and exchange system. Okay. And as I said, the value of those movies is way beyond what they were worth when they first were produced. Okay, because they're on that platform. Here's Facebook. We talked about that. Here's another, eBay. eBay is nothing more than an auction. It eliminates the intermediary. Okay, it's the world's biggest auction place, and so it's transformed that. Okay, from just simply being a place where you can exchange things with people. It uses an auction model to sell stuff. Okay, maybe you've bought some stuff from eBay or put stuff on there, and it's the world's biggest auction house. None better. YouTube is another one of those. And what we're seeing is that YouTube, like Instagram, okay, and Twitter, are these creation systems, okay? And here we have people who are now, in fact, I was watching a documentary today. CNN has a fantastic documentary on the history of comedy. And they were talking about a couple of programs that are on cable that they might get maybe 500,000 viewers, but they'll take a snippet of content from their program, put it on YouTube, or put a link to it on Twitter, and one of them had 500 million hits within a week. Well, these creation systems are different from what we ever had. You know, back at the turn of the century up until the 1960s or 70s, even today, Making a movie, okay, that shows up in a theater is a high stakes process. Hundreds of millions of dollars can be invested, but you can take somebody who has a crazy cat that jumps in a toilet stool, and they're going to have 100,000 hits, and pretty soon maybe they develop a personality and a following, and suddenly they're part of that creation system. And this is allowing people to bypass some of the intermediaries like record companies, movie studios, etc. I talk about some of the transformative nature, and I give you some of these in a link: global supply chains, global talent pools. You keep seeing this word global and then blue water, okay? Everybody competes on a global basis, from the smallest company, okay, to the largest. They're impacted by the global economy. I'll give you a real quick example. I think it was our washer went out, or the dryer, I forget, one of the two of them. We called the guy out who fixes them. Okay, you talk about information content. The guy's at my house for an hour. He's $150 later. He's pretty valuable because he knows how to fix those things. And take your car in to get it fixed today, and you know how that goes. They have to run all these diagnostics. But we had to replace, I can't remember if it was the washer or the dryer. He said, if you want to fix it, it'll be 6 months to get the part from Korea, okay? And he said, you're probably better off going down to buying a new one. And I suddenly realized, here is a local repair person, a local repair company that's impacted by global supply chains. So, folks, I can't emphasize enough to you and that's not possible without technology. It just simply isn't. The intensity of competition, and this thing about Shumter's creative destruction, and you can go out and learn about Shumter. Shumter, I think they talked about it. Basically, what he says is that economies and business industries go through cycles, and then they go through a cycle of creative destruction, and then something new emerges from it. Okay, and IT does intensify that. I'm going to talk about here quickly 4 IT tools: spreadsheets that increase our capacity to envision alternate futures. Long time ago, I worked as a consultant for a firm that did a lot of work with quality assurance and with building models for mergers and acquisitions and cash flows. Okay, and when I started, it might take us 3 months to build 5 scenarios for a merger or acquisition, the financial piece of it, because somebody's got to pay for it. You know, if you go buy somebody out, they want a premium, or if you're going to merge, you got to know, are we going to be able, if you're going to borrow a bunch of money to buy out another company, or you're going to merge 2 firms, you want to know, will we get more out of the 2 of them than we would if we left them apart? Well, by the time I left with spreadsheets, we could simulate the thousands. We could simulate 1,000 possible outcomes using spreadsheets. So we could look at alternative futures, databases that increase our knowledge to turn data into knowledge. When you watch the weather, for example, okay, you're looking at someone using a database. They're just giving you different views. And then they combine that with people in the field who are out there running around, tornado chasers and folks like that. They're also hooked into the people at the National Weather Service, and voila. And you know, I'm a data junkie, I'm a map junkie, I'm a weather junkie, and I can tell you, I'm here in Oklahoma. This is tornado land, and I can assure, and it just absolutely fascinates me that they have all this radar, and it's really nothing more than taking and creating layers of data. And when you go and look at go to a weather channel, and you'll see the little choices in terms of what views do you want. Okay, and we see that in mapping how things have changed. Tools like dashboards that help us turn knowledge into business wisdom. I can guarantee you that if a company doesn't know 5 things that it needs to check on every single day, 3 to 5 things, key performance indicators. I can guarantee you that that company is going to be having some troubles because they don't really know why they're doing what they do. Then networks that create synergistic value. Okay, and these are what we see is companies will work with a vendor, okay, or customer relationship values. Networks, okay. The first fax machine wasn't worth much because you didn't have anybody else to send a fax to. But 10 million fax machines later, or 50 million, or whatever, networks have value. And to show you this, one of the most interesting things is these celebrities who have 1 million followers on Twitter or 50,000 friends on Facebook, and they're famous because they're famous. And a case in point would be the Kardashians, who've never produced one record. I think they had a reality TV show. Okay, maybe they have a jewelry line or something. I don't know, but they're really their value is they're famous. Okay, and networks build that type of thing. And those who understand about customer relationships, those who work in sales and marketing, know all about how we build networks. Well, information technology helps us do that and create value. So just a quick review of what we were talking about. And I'm going to pop back over here to the home for a moment, okay? And we're still down here, and I want to take just a couple of minutes or so to talk a little bit about the course intro. You can look at that, the summary of the course. There's a course repository, okay? And I'll show this, and here's a link. It will take you out there. And these are old materials that I have, all types of things that you could see. And sometimes I'll often have files out there also that we use, and I'll alert you to that if we're going to be using it. That repository is out there for you to take a look at. I have links to all kinds of things. Again, it's a repository. That's what it is. We'll go back into the modules view again, okay? And I want to talk, I want to pull down here and get some information on participation, late assignments, workshop readings and materials. So when we talk about the workshops that we'll be doing, I have some of the materials and things to give you background, posting of grades, the typical kinds of stuff you'd see. But here's something I think that I want to alert you to. When we move into working at databases, I have a resource here for you, and I typically will do this, and this is Oracle's entity relationship model for retailers. In other words, if you're going to buy into Oracle's database system and you're a retailer, okay, they have a model created and to show you how to set that up, including how to define things, how to organize them. And then we have also the notion of the data visualization and entity relationship model, okay? And we'll talk about that, where we take and we create things called entity relationship diagrams, and we say, okay, those things, what variables, or what people in the build database will say, what dimensions are important to us, okay? And then we collect those dimensions and we create a thing called a record, and then we cull through that table of data to get those records to get some insights. And we'll talk about that. Got another resource there about Facebook and what they're doing. And here's one I think is exceptionally important for you, and I'm going to open it up here for just a minute. This is the analytical cube, okay, and this is a JPEG. I want you to take a look at this for just a minute. Now, when we talk about databases and the power of them, and the holy grail for everybody is to have an application that is as good at processing and crunching numbers as Excel, okay, and is as good at collecting and categorizing and storing data as Oracle or SAP or SAS. Here's this notion of slicing and dicing. I want you to take a look at this for a minute. Look at how we can build a query. And here's a query, the little red thing, for bikes. Show me the profit margin for February. So we've done a query, and when we use a database, we query the table of data, and you can see we have some dimensions here. We have time, we have product categories, we have components of those, okay? We have sales by amount, sales by cost, sales quantities, profit margins. We can slice and dice this analytical cube. And this is why a database is such a powerful tool for us, because we can move away from looking at things in 2 dimensions to looking at them in 4 or 6 or 8. That's why we can say, who bought, okay, this book on this day at this time? Who is this person? And what are they all about? And that's why all this business about tracking customer purchases and so forth, a great challenge for all of you is going to be the issue of privacy. This, I tell my students all the time, this is the golden age of marketing, because there's not a lot of guesswork, okay? You can literally track your customers. In fact, today, retailers can buy software that will track you as you go through their business using your phone. I took a course it's been about a year ago, on location analysis using the Esri. They're using the Esri Tapestry tools for location. Is called the Location Advantage, and we had to locate a store in Seattle. And I was able to get done and define the location based on a set of parameters. I was able to find the location within 45 minutes. My father, who at one time worked for a large food wholesaler in helping them identify places to put a new grocery store, would spend months, okay, on trying and looking at traffic patterns, all kinds of things. I got done in 45 minutes, what it would take him 3 months to do. So this notion of the analytical cube is very important, because it lets us see things in a more holistic way. And we're coming to really a real golden age where we have the ability to do some predictive work and analysis, and to find out, what do people want, how do they want it, when do they want it. And this analytical cube is a key piece of this, and this is why databases are so important. And you can see, I can query this. I can run as many queries as I have dimensions, okay? Well, I'm going to go back over here. We'll go to the next. And this is Salon 2. This is one of the workshops. This is one of the files that we'll be working with. And again, sometimes it's going to open slowly for us. And you will want to be downloading, and we'll be looking at it tonight. I'm going to go back over to the modules for a minute. And we're not too far from that point where we'll be starting to take a look at our lab for tonight. And listen, here's the way this works. This session will be recorded. Then I'll post it over the announcements so you can see it. And then tomorrow and then early Thursday, I'll do another supplemental lab, okay, where I'll walk you through the lab portion. And I'll tell you what file to upload for the credit, okay, because we're doing reverse engineering. And then I'll do a supplemental lecture. And I'm a lot more didactic with this tonight. Obviously, you can read this much faster than I can go through it, but I do want to talk about it with you. Here is an example of a data warehouse, and one of the things we're going to talk about a lot is this notion of a data warehouse. A data warehouse is a collection of databases, okay? And just like I have a warehouse where I go in and then I do order picking, I go and today, if it's a large company, it's probably got an automated system, robotics that go and get the stuff off the shelf and bring it in and do the order picking. The idea of a data warehouse is that I have any one of a number of specialized databases that I can draw on, and I can query, and I can pull what we call a result set or a view. And we'll talk about that a lot as we work through. Then I have some other files and materials that we'll be talking about. Northwind Traders, when we move into looking at databases and talking about them, we'll be working with the Northwind Traders. You can see also here's a solution guide. Lake West assessment is one of those. And then I have a link here about Zoom recordings. I also have a revised schedule and office hours, and I post that This doesn't have really anything to do with you at all, okay? But I have changed my office hours because I have this class on Tuesday night, okay? And I've done some work with some of my other undergraduate courses, but it's there for you to see also so that you can see what's going on. Then I have a nice little link for you. After I do this recording, okay, I'm going to post this over at YouTube, all right? And I'll create a YouTube video. Now, with YouTube, it's just like a video player, but one of the things that you also can do is you can create a transcript. It's not the greatest, but I'll show you, the link is in here, how you can get a transcript. So if you want to see stuff written out, I would also encourage you to do this. When you look at these videos, okay, it's not a bad idea sometimes to use the closed caption, okay? And again, they're videos. Scroll forward, scroll back, pause, and that's why I added the transcript piece as well. Then I have some information about the course schedule, okay? And that's that course schedule resources, so that you can, there are 2 or 3 different ways you can know where you are at any point in time in the course. Okay, now I'm going to go back up here, and again, to keep the screen acuity good, we'll click this back and pop that back up, and we'll pop that back up. And I want to take you out on the web. I have, in addition to the Harvard Business School online, in addition to MIT Sloan Management, 2 other places for me that I call all the time is the New York Times, the business section, and the technology section. The business section of the New York Times is the very best, bar none, the very best. Very simple reason. They have fantastic reporters. New York City is the financial capital of the world for now, and I always liked it. One of my favorite parts of the business section in the New York Times is Deal Book, which is really the definitive source to find out what are the venture capitalists putting their money into, what kinds of merger and acquisition activities going on out there. And so there's some great resources. I also look at I also have a subscription to the Los Angeles Times. I look at the business and technology sections. I also like to look at the entertainment, because if I want to find out what's going on with cable companies or the movie studios or the independent producers or what's going on in the music business, the LA Times is a great reporting source for that. So I use it as well. Okay. Now I'm going to what I like to do each week is to take a trip over there, okay, to the New York Times. You'll see it's one of my favorites there. And we'll take a look at it for just a minute. And I'm going to navigate over here to the to the tech section. Okay. And you can see, and here's just, it never ceases to amaze me how much information just infuses the value of everything we have. I just did some figures, and if you buy a new car today, your car is basically a piece of software with a chassis. Now look at this. Here's an article about the secret sauce, okay, and the way to make a hamburger, the recipe for Coca-Cola, or the recipe for or the components for a craft beer. That's information, okay? And that's why so many companies, 80 to 90% of the value of most companies is based in information. So here's one of those. Here's another, a question involving PayPal and how some of their financial reporting is being used. Okay, there's always some good things in terms of just personal tools, but I always like to go over to the tech section and take a look. The business section also, the New York Times always has some good stuff in it. As you can see, there's the deal book, okay? And again, I would always encourage you to come over here and take a look, okay? And you'll see some things that will help just reinforce a lot of the course, and also just kind of keep you current with what's going on out there, because things are changing fast and furious. Here's an interesting article, looked at it today. Disney and Netflix. Disney now wants to have its own streaming services. It wants to distribute its own content, okay? In the past, Disney company created content. They made movies and television shows and all kinds. They had content, and they left it to the networks and the movie houses to distribute their content. And now Disney has said, hey, we want to not only own the content, we want to do a vertical integration. And that is, we want to own the content and develop the content, and we want to own the way to distribute it. And we want to distribute it through streaming. Okay, this is how technology, the internet, and how it's changed all of these kinds of things. So these folks who are in the movie who own movie houses, who places where movies are shown, and in that business is called, they're exhibited. That's why you see gigantic IMAX theaters, because they have these gigantic theater plexes, because they got to have stuff on the scale that they can afford to rent the movies to show them. Okay, so there's always some good things over here for you to take a look at, and I would always encourage you to pop over here and take a look at them. Well, I'm going to go back, and I also think, let me pop over to the LA Times. We'll go take a look over there. And the sections up here, again, the business section, the technology. I also like to look at the entertainment section, because we see so much change going on. And I'm kind of an entertainment junkie, and I'm interested in those firms. So there are three places you can go to over there. I'll click on the tech section, okay? And you'll see they've got a lot of good information just of what's going on in terms of technology. So I'm going to close that off for just a second, okay? And we'll close off the that business there, and we'll go back here. And we're on week 0, okay? And we have this thing here, this spreadsheet tutorial, page 257 to 270, and that's due on August 10th. That's a workshop, okay? And we're going to talk about it a little bit here in just a minute. I wanted to also show you some resources that I have here for you, okay? And they deal with two things. How does technology impact our business models? Technology is one of the, it's the type of resource that it sneaks up on us. And pretty soon we find out, boy, we're doing business completely different than we ever dreamed we would be. And there's also always questions about all the money we spend on IT. What do we get for it in return? So I've got along those two themes, I've got some resources for you to take a look at and to see, for example, what is a business model? And then here's a link on business models and information technologies and the company of the future. Okay, so these are some resources for you just to take a look at. I don't give you a quiz over them, but I do believe that if you're here to get an MBA, you want to do one of two or both things. Own your own company, or be a principal key player in somebody's company, or maybe both of those. The MBA signifies that you have the top level of business knowledge, and that means you're always keeping your eyes and ears open about what's going on out in business, as well as what's happening in terms of the operations of your company. Okay? Now, we're going to come now to that part where I'm going to spend some time, and we're going to talk about the lab portion. And I'll be doing some follow-up. Now, we're going to finish off here about around 8 o'clock, okay? We start a little bit early, so we'll probably end about 8 o'clock. But I wanted to take some time And before I do that, also let me do this. I wanted to just quickly get everybody I want to see. Hi to Hamlin. David, I think I said hi to you already. Elisa, glad to have you aboard. I see Marcus. I see Zach. So those of you who are here, glad to see you here. Thank you so much. So 10 of you. And there we are. I've got Dimitri, and I've got a phone number there. I know who that is. And Dylan, Lisa, Marcus, glad to have you here. Zach and David, thank you so much. Glad to see you here. Now, let's talk about this workshop for just a moment, okay? And I'll scroll on down and close that. And the spreadsheet tutorial is over in that big green book. This is the Miller textbook, okay? It's that big green textbook, and it starts over on page 257, and it starts with a company called, it deals with a company called Tamika's Tanning Salon. Now, what we're going to find out and what we're going to see is as we take these processes, we're going to learn a little bit about how these tools are put together, okay? And then that will also give me an opportunity to show you some information technology principles. So that starts over on page 257, Tanika's Tanning Salon. Let me step away for just a moment. I need to hit the lights. I apologize about that. Thank you. And you ought to have the big green book out. It's the Miller, it's the case book. I want to walk you through that just quickly before we start to get into the heart of all of this. Now, you say, okay, you've mentioned this workshop. You'll tell us the files to upload, etc. What do you want me to upload by August the 10th? Okay, I'm going to click on this for a minute. It's due at 6 p.m. on August the 10th. So what am I supposed to upload? All right, let's go back. And I'll show you. We're going to work on a file, and it's over in the files tonight. And we're going to look at Salon. Okay, now you can scroll down here. These are organized. Okay, they're organized in alphabetical order, and you're going to see 3 files here, really 4. Salon data, that's an XLS file. Salon scenario, an example using Simplex, talk about what that is. Salon 2, and then Salon complete and the Salon deliverables. So actually there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now ultimately the one that you'll want to upload for credit is the Salon complete file. If you upload one of the other Salon files, I don't care. Now, you're very welcome if you want to work through, okay, the workshop on your own, try it on your own, feel free. I will basically just kind of deconstruct this and take a look at it. Now, I want to talk about this for a moment because this case, it really actually starts over, it's Salon in the case. And Salon, the tutorial, it's a spreadsheet tutorial, really starts over on page 252. So follow on with me for a moment, if you will, and then we'll look at the file. And when you do this, download the file to your desktop so you can see it, and then you'll be able to upload it before the 10th. So you get credit for attending and working on the workshop. Okay. Now, as is typical with all the cases in this casebook, they're going to give you some background about the company, okay, and the tutorial, what it's about, and this is about building a spreadsheet, okay, and this is over on page 252. Then on page 253, they show you a tutorial scenario, and they talk about what they want to try to do. And if you look there at that figure 1, you're going to see a daily sales activity report. So this is a tanning salon. They operate on a cash and carry basis, I would assume, or maybe they have a card swiper, who knows. But they operate on a daily kind of model. And so they look at the day's receipts, and they're concerned about that. And you could see in that figure 1
you'll see the items, okay? And those items are what we call dimensions, okay, or attributes. They're a particular type of product or item that they sell. Then they want to keep track of unit sales. How many of those did we sell? And then the dollar sales. Now that's really that's a daily activity report. And so one of the pieces you have to know is, okay, well, what do they sell them for? And then if you look over on page 254, you're going to see the price list. Okay, and this shows you what they sell for 1 session, 5 sessions, etc. Okay, and so they're kind of giving you that data, that raw data that we'll be feeding into the spreadsheet, okay, to create something we can use to make some decisions or to answer some questions. If you take a look in the middle of page 255, you're going to see some information specifications. They want to compare monthly sales for different tanning products. They want to identify the salon's two top selling items, and they want to find out what item appears to be the least popular. As I said before, IT is decision-centric, but in order to make a decision, you got to have a question first. So here are 3 questions that they want to try to answer, and there's some things implied in them. Are there products I should expand or try to sell on special? Are there products I ought to get rid of? Then you see on 255 a test your design section, and that starts with that figure 3 at the bottom of page 255, and they walk you through that, and then they give you a set of deliverables, okay? And then starting on page 257 is the workbook presentation, is the workbook preparation, and that's where we're going to start tonight. So I want you to, first of all, you go ahead and go to that file, okay? I'm over in the files section, and you want to download the file to your desktop called Salon Data, okay? And you'll want to put it on your desktop. Why? So that you can easily access it and work with it. Now, I'm going to enable the editing in that business, and I'm going to click this, and I'm going to save it as, okay? And I'm going to call it Salon Data, and I'm going to put it on my desktop. All right? Now, I want you to take a look at this for just a moment, and let's talk about what's in here. Now, the spreadsheet, a workbook, sometimes people use the term spreadsheet and workbook interchangeably. That's really not the case. A workbook is made up of a series of worksheets, okay? So let's take a look. First of all, here's a summary. And notice that we have the item. And then we have an added thing. We've added a dimension, a category or type of item. Okay, so we have categories of items and then particular items within them. Okay, and so we have this SE, which stands for sessions. Then we have these SP for special kinds of things that we offer. Then we have products. We sell some bronze lotion, some golden lotions, tanning. Then we have finally fitness memberships, a 6-month and a yearly fitness membership. So Tamika has some people who drop in, pay and go. Other people who buy a membership or maybe use a 1-month limited special or pay a monthly special, and then they have special offering for their loyal customers. So notice we have the number of units. Okay. Then we have the sales, and that's based upon the number of units times the price. Okay, and this gives us a nice summary of the sales by week for each one of these. Okay, so this is a summary worksheet. Right now with this, I can do a lot of things. You say, well, okay, I'm pretty experienced working in Excel. Why couldn't I just take these and put these into something like, for example, say into a pivot table, and that indeed I could do. All right, let's go and look at the construction of this for a moment. And here's week 1. Okay, And again, we've got, this is what we did in week 1, the total dollar sales. Here's week 2. Pardon me, week 3. Here's week 2. I'll move that here. And week 3 and week 4. So we have these figures, and now these are really raw data that have been put together, okay? And I know, for example, that the pricing for these is $5. I sold 23, and in week 4 I sold 23 one sessions at $5 a piece, of $150. So this file is really kind of just a raw data file, although because it's in that format, I could do a little bit of summary with it, okay? But we'll close this file off because there's another one we want to take a look at. We're not going to save any of those changes. Now we looked at the salon data, and then let's look at salon 2. So come down here and let's download that file. So we had just the raw data. And now we're going to see a little bit more of a finished product. Now, if you take a look in the textbook, they're going to walk you through all this business about how to build the headers and all the formatting and all that. And that's good stuff to have. Okay, it's good stuff to know. One of the things, a key principle in IT, is this notion of breadcrumbs. You say, what are you talking about? Well, let me show you. I just clicked on cell A3, and if you notice up above here, okay, certain things went hot. The font, the placing of the font. Am I working with a number? What am I working with there? The type of font, the size. So I can look at something in terms of a finished product and have a pretty good idea. I also know the fill that's used there. It shows me. So the text authors are going to walk you through a lot of the creating this stuff, and I really don't know that will do that much. It will do that much good to do it. Okay, but let's. I'm going to bring up this to 100%, so it's a little bit easier to see for me and for you, perhaps. And let me take it down just a hair more. Now, let's look at this. Now they have the plan type. Okay, and again, here are some dimensions. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then some type of weekly total, okay, that we have in terms of the products and the sales. And what we'll want to do is we can get that all summarized, okay? And notice something here. Now I'm clicked in cell C5, and I want you to take a look at the formula. We always have, and you're going to see this over the databases, 2 areas. One is the formula area, okay, and then the other is the output area, or the display. In the display, we see 109. You say, where did you get that? Well, this is 109 units is from the worksheet called Week 1, and that's in cell R5. And how do I know that? Well, I can say it equals that. And so we use what we call a cell definition to input the data there, input the number. And let's go over to week 1, and we want to go to R5, and we'll have to pop this up a little bit so you see it better. And we want to click on R5, and there it is. Now notice that it is based upon a sum of following numbers. And this notion of breadcrumbs, if you click up in the formula bar, you're going to see the different cell references. Okay, this is using the sum formation. The different cell references use different colors, and they even give you that visual output up here. And I'll bring this up a little bit so you can see it even better. Click over here on myself over to R5. Navigate this up here. Here's R5. Click and watch. This lets us know the cells that we've used. And notice I've got the units. And so I just inputted these data, and then I use the summary. One of the first things we do with data is we try to summarize it, and in this case we've done that. And that's the total units. Now back here in the summary, we referenced from that workbook. Now, on week 1 sales, notice something. It's going to equal, it's going to use an algorithm. And the week 1 sales, not the units, but the sales, dollar volume is week 1 S5. And we can go back here and we can see. And so we use cell referencing to do that. Now, before that, we had interjected price, and we know that we took the units and we could see. And this is an interesting little tool. Now, I want to show you this for just a minute because this is one of these things where, as I've said, we're going to kind of deconstruct it. This is one of these ways that we do it. Okay, here we're using a function in Excel, but we're using a database function to look up a piece of data. Now, one of the things I've learned over the years is if I click on this, usually I will get the insert, I'll get the dialog box, okay? And this is the VLOOKUP, and I'm going to see if it's going to give me a dialog box or not. If not, I'll have to do it. I'm going to find a spot down here that will show you what we're talking about. So I'm going to come down here to cell B26 equal VLOOK, and it will give you a drop down, VLOOKUP, and then a parenthesis, and then I get what we call the dialog box. VLOOKUP is basically a way that I look up stuff in a table, and I look vertically. And that's the lookup value. Then we have a table array, okay? Then we have a column index, and then a range lookup. And it will explain to us each of these, what we mean. Let's go back up here for a minute. And I'm going to press escape on that. And on this Sunday sales, I'm going to look at this. Now notice what we did here. We used the VLOOKUP with a numeric expression, which we took the result of that VLOOKUP times D5, and D5 is the units. Here's what we said. We're going to look up A5, okay? That's one session in the price list, and price list is the range. So we have a price list, and the price list is an array of data, or like a table, if you will. And we're going to choose the value from the second column. Otherwise, it'll go false if there's nothing there. And we're going to take that times D5. So we looked up, we started with A5, then we pulled it from the price list and we chose the second column, and that false, if it's false and we don't do anything with it, there's nothing there, and we multiplied it by D5. Now I want to notice something about what we call an algorithm. Now watch what happens when I come down here to E6. Notice that I have this time A6, price list, column 2 times D6. You'll notice something interesting here. This is cell referencing. I put the dollar sign in front of the A, that's the column, which means I'm going to stay in this column. And that's what we call a relative cell index. So we've combined two things here, a database function with a spreadsheet function. Okay? Now, as you just scroll on down, you're going to see the same thing, A7 times D7. And we'll come all the way down here and then we get a sum. We use the sum function to get the dollar value, okay? And we didn't get the sum of the units for Sunday or for Monday or for Tuesday. You say, well, why didn't we do that? Well, we could if we wanted. That's going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to put to get the sum for week 1 Sunday units. How many units did I sell total? Just all things. I can come down here and get the sum. I don't really care to because I'm mixing oranges with apples. I'm really more concerned about getting the total units, okay? And I'll bring this back down a little bit so you can see it. And then I'll press it and you can see the cells as they go hot and they show us the total units and the total dollar sales. So thus far we've looked at week 1, how that was put together. And then we see the same thing for week 2. And okay, and in this case, I'll pop this up just a minute here a little bit. Give us a little bit more visual acuity. The Monday sales equal VLOOKUP A5, okay? And then the price list, here's the price list. The second column, if there's nothing there, then we say false, and then we take that times F5, and we'll see that algorithm used to build week 3 and build week 4, and then we pull the summary for each week, and then we can simply do the total units. We're going to do that real quickly here. You get the total units and the total sales, okay? And to get the total units, it's pretty simple. This will be equal, and I'm going to bring this up. Just hang on a second. I'm going to bring this up a little bit so I can see it. That's too much. I'm going to get the total units, and it's going to, and I'll put it's going to equal the sum of C5, and then E5, and then F5, pardon me, G5, and then the I5, and that ought to do it, and boom. I have 201 units. Let's click that, make sure. Let me bring myself up here. And I've got units, 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 yep, okay. And then I'll just simply take this, okay, and to get the total sales, this will equal, and this will be K5. I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of it. So I'm going to stay in this column K. Times, and I'm going to go back to the price list. And press, and there I am. I sold 201 units. They're $5. I've got $1,005. Notice how I use the price list, okay, to feed in to this summary, these total units, and how I use these worksheets to feed in over here. Now, this just becomes an issue where I'll go ahead and I can run that sum on down. I'll put a dollar sign in front of the C, dollar sign in front of the E, in front of the G. We're using some cell referencing here, and we're using what we call relative cell reference that's anchored on the column. And then I can just should be able just to drag and drop this jewel and get all of them. 6, and then basically, I've got this K5 times the price list, and I've got B3, and I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of that and see if that's going to work for me. and this just drag and drop it on down, see what happens. Now I know this is right. 201 times 5 is 1,005. We've got 127 total units we sold, okay, of the 5 sessions. And let's go back into the price list for 5 sessions. It's 25 bucks. I'm just checking my math. And I'll take equals 25. I'm just kind of checking the math, the eyeball of it, times 127. And I'm good. So I did a little bit of cell referencing there, okay? Then, now what I've done is I've used cell referencing to tie these together to integrate this, and they walk you through a whole lot of stuff and steps to do that, and that's right over there on page 257 through 270, okay? And so it will be useful for you. Now, if you want to see the finished, fully finished product, okay, you'll want to take a look all the way over, and I also have it posted for you. Over on page 289 shows you Tamika, the Tamika Tanning Salon, the whole month's sales, okay? And you can, and you've got all that data there that you can do some work with. Now, one of the problems that I have though with this is when I use these cell references, okay, it becomes a little bit of a problem to try and paste them and so forth. So I can go back to that data summary, all right, and do some work. But right now, I can do some things. I'm going to go back over here to page 257 in the workbook. And this is Tamika's, and this is a nice little spreadsheet. It uses the sum function. It uses a VLOOKUP function. We do some cell referencing. And we kind of combine all that to get what we're after in terms of the sales. Now, they have some information specifications. She wants a pie chart that compares the monthly sales for the tanning products. This is the middle of page 255. She wants to know the salon's top selling items, and she wants to, based on the monthly total dollar sales, which item appears to be the least popular. Okay, well, I'm going to do something. I'm going to take my cursor, okay, and I'm going to put it right here on cell A4, and I'm going to highlight all the way down to L23. So I'm going to choose A4 all the way down to L23, okay? And I'm going to see if I can do, I'm going to see if I can do a pivot table. I'm going to click Insert, Pivot Table, and let's see what we get. And I get the Pivot Table dialog box. Now, Pivot Table, when we do some of these spreadsheet cases, you'll see me resort to using it for a simple reason. Pivot tables give me the best, a little bit of the best of both worlds. A pivot table lets me create an analytic cube, but it also allows me then also to do some number crunching. Now in the create the pivot table dialog box, okay, you're going to notice the table range, and then we're going to put that output into a new worksheet. And there's our pivot table. Now you'll see you should have the pivot table field, okay? And now, and I'll just scoot this out for a little bit better visual acuity. At the top up here, you should make sure that you're in the pivot table tools and in the options, and that you want to see the field list and field headers. Pivot table basically is this: a report filter, which is kind of like the big picture, then columns, then rows, and then values, okay? So I'm going to take the, and she wanted to know which salon item appears to be the least popular. I'm going to take the item, okay, and it's down in the rows. And then I'm going to take total sales, and I'm going to put that in values. Okay, and so she wants to know which one is the least popular. This is page 255, Information Specifications, ISS 3. Which salon item appears to be the least popular based on sales, total dollar sales? Well, I have the sum of the total dollar sales. Notice when I clicked outside of here, it disappeared, comes back. Now, there's a simple way for me to do this. You said, why can't I just simply use some filters on these data? And I can. Okay, I'm going to click on sum of sales, and I'm going to sort it Z to A, meaning in descending order. Okay, now that shows me the largest to the smallest, but we want to know which appears to be the least popular based on sales. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to sort them A to Z. Okay, now this will give me a little bit of a nice look. And does it indeed tell me that? Well, not quite, because I don't have them ordered well. And you can see the order's not there. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to click on A4, and I'm going to come all the way down here to B. I'm going to highlight A4 to B20. Okay? And I'm going to take facts. Look at the sum of the total sales. Let's go back in here for just a second. We got the sum of the total sales. And we might look at, no, we don't want to look at the value field set. So let's just do this. Highlight cell A4 all the way down to B20. All right. And then let's come over in the far right side, okay? And you're going to find this thing called sort and filter. Click on that, and we're going to find a thing called the custom sort. And I want to do an ascending A to Z by sum of total sales, and let's see if it'll do that for us. And it does. So I use the sum function there over here, far right up in the toolbar, and now I have them in order on the basis of their sales. Now, one of the issues that I run into is sometimes formatting of data. All right. Now I have numbers here, but I want to format them, and in other words, add another layer so it's a little bit more visually appealing and makes some sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead and turn them into accounting format. And now it makes sense. I can see the dollar sales. And now I've answered the question. The one that's the least popular is what? Well, the one session. Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because information technology, as I said before, is about making decisions. All right. And we know that the one session has the lowest sales, okay? And that's fine, but we also have to go back and take a look for a moment and ask ourselves, all right, what's the price of this? Well, it's $5, okay? So I have some decisions I need to make, okay? In terms of this, I've sold 201 units. Now, in terms of units, I've sold quite a few versus everything else. In fact, I sold more one session, in terms of all the products that I sold, one session, I sold more of that in terms of units than anything else, okay? So what might this be telling us? Well, there could be a number of things, and we'll go back over here. Let's look at this for just a moment. here in this sheet. We know that we're selling. We know the units are sold. That this is the lowest price unit. Okay, and this raises a business problem for us. I'm selling 201 of these. Okay, I get $5 a pop. I've got people traipsing through my place. They're using the beds. They're using the electricity, etc. So am I charging enough? Okay, and so this brings me to a question of, okay, how elastic is my price? You said, oh my goodness, don't tell me this is Econ 101. Well, kind of. We want to know, is there price elasticity here in these items? In other words, for example, if I take these 1 sessions, okay, and let's say right now I sold 201, okay, at $5, and that's $1,005. If I raise this to $5.50, okay, does that mean I'm going to sell 10% less? Do I have that kind of price elasticity? So if I raise the price, okay, $5.50, okay, or 10%, will I have a corresponding 10% drop in the units sold? So when we talk about price elasticity, what we're really talking about is what change in volume and percentage, what is the change in percentage volume or units sold versus the percentage change? If it's perfectly elastic, it's a 1-to-1 relationship. Okay, and few goods are perfectly perfectly elastic, and this is artificial. But here's something for me to think about. Okay, now how much income will I forego? Well, I'm going to lose the difference between $1,000 and $904. All right, I lose $100.50, maybe. You say, what are you talking about? Here again is how information technology helps me think about my business. And this is just a simple example, but we're looking at this one product. We figured out that the lowest, we ran the data, this is the lowest. We said, okay, if we assume that we raise the price 10%, the volume will go down 10%. But think about it for a moment. How will it impact our sales of oil or lotion or enhancer? Okay? How will it affect those complementary goods or products? And so while I can tell you, okay, that the one session is the lowest amount in terms of dollar sales, what I don't know is how would it impact me in terms of other items? Because if I give up, okay, and that if I drop the number of customers, I'm going from basically to I'm going from basically I'm assuming I'm going to have 10% customers, so that's going to equal 0.9 times 201. Then I'm going to go to 181 customers. Let's call it just, roughly. And that means we're going to lose some income. We're going to lose some complementary or cross sales opportunities. And this is where I kind of say, okay, then I want to begin to track when somebody buys one session, did they buy tanning oil? Why do people buy one session? And there's some other things. For example, from this information specification question on page 255 that I need to think about. Let's look at it for a moment. Let's go back over into the summary sheet and let's look. Here's week 1, units. Week 2, this is one session. Week 3, units. week 4 units. Okay. Now, in this month, we sold far more units at the first week than we did through the remainder of the month till we hit week 4. Week 1 of the month and week 4 of the month. Week 1 is the beginning of October, okay? Week 4 is really the end of October, i.e. the start of November. And week 1 is really the start of October and really the end of September. So I have a pair of bookend data here, okay, where I'm going to have to ask myself a question. Why is it that I have all these sales at the first and the first week and the last week of the month? Okay? Why that phenomenon? Okay, and I might also want to come down in and say, okay, well, let's look at these products. How do I do? And let's start with the bronze lotion. I sold 70 units, and I'm down on cell C15 here. And I'll pop back over here on week 4, I sell 14. So you can say, well, okay, the truth of the matter is they buy a bunch of bottles of 12-ounce lotion that lasts them through the month, and then they refill when they come back. So you can see there's a whole lot of questions and information that I can get just from these simple data. This workshop, this little case is designed to give us some things like looking at using VLOOKUP, for using cell coloration and formatting, and I can basically reverse engineer that by clicking up here and see what goes hot up here in the menu. Okay, same story here. I can use cell referencing. We did that to build our data. We used a pivot table. Okay, and the beautiful thing about this pivot table is it lets me do some nice things with it. Now, I know here that I've got, these in order, and how much of these are a function of price versus units. And we did a little bit of work here. So, okay, well, all right, Dr. Harmon, what's the point? Well, let's close this file off, and you saved it to your desktop, okay? And I want to show you real quickly, and I'll go through this in some more detail because we're getting to come upon the hour. We started a little bit early, and I know that the head can endure what the seat can endure. And I want to look at this thing called Salon Scenario Example using Simplex LP. And I want to download that file. Okay. And I want you to notice what we've done here. I've done quite a bit of work. I've got each week, I've colored the tabs. I've got a scenarios and days. I've done a little bit of analysis here. I've got an answer report where I ran a scenario. I did a sensitivity analysis. Now, I want to talk for a moment about what you've got loaded into your Excel sheet, all right, and how to add some things in. So, download this salon scenario and save it on your desktop. And any one of these salon files, okay, that you upload by Thursday at 6 o'clock, you'll get the 25 points credit because I know you've listened, you've looked, and you've heard me say this. So don't get all wigged out about it. Just upload any one of them. I really prefer this one, but I'm going to go into some more details. So I'm going to click OK, and like I said, I'm going to do a supplemental lab and supplemental lecture. So we'll take a look at it. Right here we have just some data here, okay? And I'm over here in this scenario 1. And you want to make sure that you have the scenario analysis tools, okay? So do this, click on data, okay? On the data tab at the top of Excel, and see if you have a thing called what if analysis. This has 3 tools: the scenario manager, the goal seek, and data table. And we'll look at that a little bit more in the supplemental lab session, okay? Then also you're going to see that I have a thing called solver in the analysis area and data analysis. And if you don't have those, here's how you do it. You click on file, you click on options, all right? And then you come down and you click on add-ins. Now notice that I have active application add-ins, inactive, okay? I have for my active applications, I have the analysis tool pack, I have a power pivot, power pivot for Excel, and the solver, which is a nice little tool, and we'll talk about that in the supplemental lab. And then I have these that are inactive. If you have any one of these 3 are inactive, just click on it, click go, click OK, and it will add it in. That's all you got to do. Okay? So what we'll do, and what this spreadsheet is do, is we do a little bit of scenario analysis, and we do a little bit of goal seek. And let's play with goal seek for just a moment. I'll click on what if analysis, and I'm going to click goal seek, and I'm going to set the cell. And this may not work for me or not. I think it has to have a formula for it. To the value 150 by changing cell. I'm going to put E18, and we'll see it may not work because it doesn't have a formula in it. Yeah. Cell must contain a value. Let me type these for a minute. Where did I pull these from? Yeah, I use the cell references. Let me go back over here for a minute. Yeah, I'm not using cell references, but I'm going to copy these. I'm going to copy A1 to E20. I'll click copy, and then I'm going to go to a new, and then I'm going to come over down below here in the worksheet, down to cell A26, and I'm going to click paste values. Okay? And I'm going to get rid of that, and then I'm going to use the sum. Okay? And so then I'll just come down, and I'm going to get the auto sum and the auto sum for the units as well. What I did was I stripped out those cell references. And he said, how do you know? Well, here it is. So I did a copy, and then I pasted just the values. Now I'm going to try the goal seek. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click data. What if analysis, goal seek, and I'm going to set the cell E45, and my goal is I want to get to $150,000 by changing cell, and I'll do 6-month fitness memberships. So it'd be I'll see what I get. Okay, and it found a solution for me. Now I'm going to cancel that. Okay, because I want to see my before and after. So I'm going to see before and then after. We're going to do this again. I'm going to click, and I should have saved that scenario. So I'm going to click data. What if analysis, goal seek, and I'm going to set cell E45 to 150,000 by changing cell, and that's going to be E43. And right now we know the 6-month membership fitness. Right now I've got 18,460 in memberships. If I want to get to 100 in 6-month memberships, let me cancel this out for a minute. I'll just put this equal and I'll put this figure in. I will do a little bit more playing around with this later on. And I'll go back here and I'll click data, goal seeking. One of the nice things about a spreadsheet, I talked about that before, is it gives us the ability to look at possible alternative outcomes. Right now, I'm charging a certain amount for these 6-month memberships. I'm getting, a certain amount. I have a certain volume. If I wanted to get total revenue to 150 grand, and I wanted to do it using the 6-month memberships, what have I got to do? Well, I'm going to set the cell E45, and the value is 150 by changing the cell E43, and I'll run the goal seek, and it'll give me a figure. Okay. Now I can look at this. I've got the before figure, okay, and what I had before, and I'll run it again. Now, the new figure, okay, and I'll click OK on that. And the new figure, I'll just use the cell reference equals, boom. And then I can look at the difference to find out how much new income I make. So that's going to be equal. So I'm going to have to get another $2,900 out of the 6-month fitness memberships to get to my goal of $150,000. You might say, well, Dr. Harmon, could I look at different sets of products and see how that and what combinations I could get to get to the 150 if I don't want to do just one product? Yes, I can. And what we've done here is we've done the first level. There's a thing called the scenario manager, and we'll play around with it a little bit. Okay? And what we can do is we can use the scenario manager and change some values to get to that 150,000. So when I do the supplemental lab, okay, we'll look at the what if analysis using it, and then maybe play around with XLS solver as well, so that you can see how we did that. And you can see I've done some limits. And I might have run a solver scenario. Yeah, I did. Here's the one where I wanted to set the objective cell E20, and where was I? E20 and I had set these less than or equal to 150, 150. I made some changes, and we'll take a look at that. Okay. Using the Simplex LP, and we'll do that when we do the supplementary. Well, what it shows me right now is I'm going to make $2,960 more. Okay, now that's pretty simple to figure out in terms of units, because this new value, this difference, was divided by 180.99 and that tells me I got to sell 16 more units. 16 more 6-month memberships to get myself to that $150,000 goal. All right. So this is how when we use this little spreadsheet itself is a dashboard of sorts. And again, to emphasize, if I want to see formatting and formulas and all of that, they walk you through all those pieces there. Okay, and it's good for you, but you'll learn a lot faster if you, and a lot quicker if you just simply do the reverse engineering, as I've talked about before. And once you got a good spreadsheet and it looks pretty and it gives you what you need to do, there you are. Okay, and you've got I can click on this and then click home, and it will tell me everything I need to know. Those are the breadcrumbs. It's merged in center. The alignment, the type of font, is it bold, the type of fill that I'm using. And then again, we start to see these formulas. And this is a fairly little simplistic little situation, but just even with this question number 3, okay, the total dollar sales, we answered number 3, and we could do the salon's top 2 selling items. I'm going to go back here for a minute to this. See, I think it goes back on this scenario 1. Yeah. Well, you can say, okay, what are the top 2 items? So it's pretty simple. I'm going to take my, based on sales, and I want to put that back in, make that 18,450.98. That'll bring us back down to the original value. And now it's pretty simple. I can see, because I've got these ordered, and I'll just use the sort, do a custom sort. Make sure my data has headers. I'm going to sort them by revenue. And I'm going to take, they wanted us to know the 2 top selling items, so I'm going to do largest to smallest. And then just to make sure I don't get fooled, I'm going to put them into dollars so I see them. And my 2 top selling items are yearly enrollments and yearly fitness memberships. Okay, those are my 2 biggest items. Okay, so I've answered information specification question number 2 as well as number 3. Now the third one is a pie chart, okay? And we'll talk about that in the lab, okay? And you're gonna hear me talk about this before. Let me say this, frankly, charting in Excel can be a little bit difficult, okay? And frankly, I don't know what you're going to get out of it that you might not get out of just doing a pivot table, all right? But they want you to do a pie chart, and I'm not so sure that it's going to give you all that much good information when you could use a chart. Now, I'm going to work with these data right here for a moment, down here, and I'm going to highlight the cell A26 down to EV44, okay? And I'm going to click Insert, and I'm going to do a bar chart, and it's going to let me, if I want, develop that, and I'm just going to play with it for a minute because it's got some tools. And there's a bar chart, and you can see how terribly, terribly crowded this thing is. So I'm going to back out of that for just a minute. And I want to insert, and I want to do a pie. And now they wanted us to do these by category. A pie chart compares the monthly tanning sales for the tanning products. All right, that's going to be pretty simple. So I'm going to click, I've got insert, And I'm going to do click pie chart. I'm going to do a two-dimensional pie, all right? And then I'm going to select the data. And they want me to add monthly sales for the tanning products. And so I'm going to add a data, and I'm going to call this item. And the items will be the monthly, tanning products. So it's going to be the bronze lotion. Well, wait a minute. That's going to equal item. And then the series values down here, I'm going to get the bronze 12 ounce. I think this will work. And then the tan enhancers. And the series name will equal item. Now let's see what we get. And then you give us the figures. No, and then I want to get the this would be my horizontal data. And then I want to add series name, and again we'll call that units. And I want to get the units for the bronze. This may not work out well for me. And then I want the bronze 12, right, the bronze, and then these three here. Where what I should have done is gone back and sorted these. Okay. Now I've got these units, and I'm going to put them over here. Really, these should be the. I messed this all up. Let me back out of here for a minute. My apologies. All right, I'm going to select the data. I want to get the legend series. I'm going to click add, and the legend series will be the I want the legend series is going to be the item, and I'm just going to take these three right here. Okay. And click OK. And then I'm going to add the units. And I'm going to get the data. There we go. And I think probably what I'll do is take the units. I think I'll take this item, switch it over there. Then I've got the units, and oops, I got the units. So I'm going to move the units back. There we go. Now I click on here, and I can add the data labels, and that'll give me how many I sold. I can go ahead and format that data series to put it into percentages, etc. You can see, as much as I work with Excel, charting can sometimes drive me crazy, and frankly, I don't care much to do it. So what I often like to do is just use an automatic chart. One of the issues we have here is we've got these, we're kind of playing around with these a little bit. We have them up here ordered as they should be. Yeah, so, and in the lab, I'll go through the charting a little bit more and let you see it. The chart, frankly, doesn't do much for you. If you're really all that interested, here's what you can do if you're interested in the units. I'm going to come over here to the, up here where I've got these all together, these products, and I'm going to highlight the units. Okay? And then I'm going to click conditional formatting. Okay. And I'm going to use a gradient fill. Okay. And I'm going to basically create a little bit of a bar chart. And if I use the solids, it's even better, but the gradient's nice. Okay. I can do color scales, where the largest to the smallest. And so I want to compare these. I can probably use a conditional formatting a lot easier than messing around with trying to do a chart. Oh, I can do a chart if I want. This will give me just about as good as what I want to see. Okay. Now, if I'm all that hot and bothered about it, I can always go in and do a pivot table and just take them by product, and we'll look at it. We'll maybe look at doing that in the supplemental lab session. Well, listen, I've run over 8 o'clock. I do appreciate your time. All of you were here. Let me pop on this again to see everybody who was here. If I'm missing Dimitri, Zach, Marcus, Mon, and I see David. I think we could probably have some other people here that I'm missing. I'm not getting your names in there. And and I do apologize about that. I'm not sure why it's not giving me everybody. Okay? But nonetheless, thank you for being here, and be looking for this. I'll save this recording and then post it over in announcements, okay? And then I'll do the supplemental lab where we'll look some more at Scenario Manager and mess around with charting and that type of thing. And then also look at, I might show you some more about the simplex and what we did there. But that being said, okay, let's just back off for just a sec. The file, you say, okay, for this thing on the 10th, this file that I need to upload, what do I upload? Upload any one of these salon scenario files, okay? My preference is that you do this one with the simplex, you upload it, and that's the 25 points, okay? Thank you for your time, folks. If you have some questions, please feel free to contact me, or you could shoot me if you've got a question. You can invite me to chat. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop the recording and then end the meeting and go from there. Thank you so very much, and look forward to hearing from you.